I remember the very first cell phone that I held in my hand. It was blue, it was heavy, and it had a game on it that I spent so much time doing. What was the name of that game? Oh, I heard a bunch of Snake, and I heard Tetris. So Snake is what I was thinking of. So Snake, the Nokia 6110, came out in 1997, and the game Snake captured the world's attention. Okay, not quite like that, but if you remember that, I did not realize that in 1997, for me, it was still a little ways away until I owned my first cell phone, but I remember playing with that and thinking, well, this is kind of a fun distraction. What I didn't realize was that little game, that little device eventually would explode into our culture and our awareness in a way that became a master fighting for my attention and in controlling me in ways that I never realized. And that's true for so many people. And so we're kicking off a series called Digital Detox. Oh, thank you very much for that up there. I appreciate that. We're kicking off a series called Digital Detox, and we want to explore not just the use of phones, but this really bigger than that is about lordship. Who's going to have mastery, who's going to have control over your life in ways that for us and the culture we live in, we want to just really explore through the digital lens. And because here's why. Here's why. Digital media doesn't just distract us, it disciples us. Digital media doesn't just distract us, it disciples us. And that's what these next 3 weeks we really want to explore and unearth and look at. It forms our habits, it rewires our attention, it accelerates our pace, it helps us understand, are we connected, are we not? It can impact our joy, just like last night's game. I wasn't going to say it, but just so you know, I want to be careful here. Hey, so there's so many things that you just by doing that, it just impacts us. It impacts. So the series is not just about phones, it's about lordship. What's impacting us? And we're going to focus on devices, but maybe if you're like, well, this doesn't apply to me because I'm not addicted to my phone, well, maybe it does. But also, we're going to broaden it just beyond phone use. You think about digital, the connectivity of our world, and the devices and screens and things that we access and look at. This series is really about discipleship. And as your pastor, I want to come before you and recognize when there's a competing master in our life, we need to look at it and evaluate it directly. And so as we launch this new year together, this is an opportunity to explore this. Because so many times I feel like sometimes we can miss what's going on around us and we blame it on being busy, but maybe it's because we're being distracted. And so we need to be looking and exploring these things as we kick off this year together. That we want to experience some things in this new year, not just scroll through somebody else's vacation, but be present with those people around us. And so digital discipleship is a phenomenon that has exploded over the world recently. In the last 30 years, since that game Snake came out, it's become so much more than just a game and a device that way, but our work worlds can just revolve around that device. How do you really have vacation out of the office? In some sense, you are so connected. We all are. And so what we want to do is recognize this isn't just a new phenomenon, but there's always been something competing for lordship and influence of our life. So I want to go back to Romans chapter 12 and look at a verse as we kick off and then continue to explore this concept together. In Romans 12, it says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world." That's a significant word. Do not conform to the pattern of this world. But, so in contrast, be transformed. Very similar words. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. You're either a disciple of culture or you're a disciple of Christ. Your phone, the media you intake, will conform us and disciple us. And it can happen so quickly. We don't even realize it. Phones shape our thoughts, our patterns, our behaviors, our actions in so many different ways. The words here, conform and transform, are nuanced in a way we could look at, but really their overlap is largely the same. You're going to be transformed by the surroundings that you place yourself in. In the first century, when Paul was writing this in Rome, Rome was known as a place where there was so much deviance and anger and aggression, particularly towards those on the outskirts of society, and that was just normal. That's just how you treated people. And so it was on a social ladder, and if you were lower on the ladder, well, you just step on them to get up to the next. And that's just normal. People were discipled into that. So to step outside of that, you transform into something different. And so here Paul's saying, you can choose. You can choose to be transformed by Christ instead of the culture around you. Now, the observation here, too, is you are discipled by your surroundings. And here's the thing. The problem is not, as you look at what Paul's saying here in Romans, the problem is not that we are discipled and influenced by the surroundings. That's not the problem. That's how God's wired us. And so the solution isn't to buck up ourselves and become who Jesus called us to be alone. The solution is recognize you're conformed by the social institutions and the people around you and the places you put yourself, and choose where you place yourself. So be transformed by Christ. Place yourself in the surroundings with people in situations that transform. Now, the unique challenge of the digital discipleship in the world we face ourselves with is it's different than in the first century where Paul would write, so be careful where you go and where you place yourself in those relational situations, because now we don't even have to leave our home and we can step into a world far from our home. Whether it's pulling out the device, whether it's flipping on the TV, whatever the internet search is, we place ourselves in all kinds of different situations and surroundings without ever leaving our home. Staying in our pajamas, we can go anywhere, right? And so here we have to be intentional about where we're placing ourselves. You don't actually have to go anywhere to allow the habits and culture and norms of culture to influence you. And this transformation that's happening, this us normalizing different things that we watch, see, experience, scroll through, is a discipleship process, because discipleship is transformation. And we're either going to conform to the image of the world, or we're transformed into the image of Christ. Everyone is being discipled. The question is, who or what is discipling you? Who's discipling me? And so I want to look at a little bit of some slides and some different things here, some stats, just to kind of highlight how the result of some of this digital transformation discipleship has taken place. So here's just some recent stats from Jonathan Haidt's book, if you've heard of it, The Anxious Generation. It came out a couple years ago, but he's a researcher out of London, phenomenal research. And here's what he's observed. I'll just show you three different things here. This one's focused on depression. It's showing the percentage of depression, particularly within teens, and it's highlighting this. And his research is focused on some of this timeline because in 2009, the iPhone came out and social media really started getting a wider impact. So the impact of social media and the digital accessibility, particularly through the iPhone and other now smart devices. And so it's showing the increase in depression of kids, so 12 to 17. Girls and boys, an increase, particularly around areas of depression. But it wasn't just depression that we're being discipled into. Here's another statistic around anxiety. And here you see anxiety's prevalence, particularly Gen Z. So for me, millennial, sitting in that spot, older millennial, not young millennial, but anyway. So sitting there, so Gen Z is growing up, and they hit puberty after the cell phone has already been within culture and normalized for their use. Millennials, I hit puberty, and then cell phone hit world. And so it's a different impact on brain function, but you're seeing here the anxiety levels that are being impacted by these things. So older, you're not seeing as much increase in this. Then the last one here is in his book, he talks particularly about mental illness and those diagnosed with these illnesses: anxiety, depression, ADHD, bipolar, anorexia, substance abuse, schizophrenia on the bottom there. You see all of these things an uptick. Now, culturally, there's a whole lot of explanations and things around here, but there's a lot of research. His point of his Anxious Generation, his book, is writing around when you allow digital media to influence you, here's what's happening. Now, as far as I know, he's not a Christian. He's just making observations in culture. So throwing on our Christian lens worldview, I'm looking at this and going, people are being conformed to the world around them. And we are being discipled by our digital device, particularly our phones in our pockets. And now here's how Haidt summarized his research, and so save you from reading the whole book, although it's still an excellent read. So between 2010 and 2015, the social lives of American teens moved largely onto smartphones with continual access to social media, online video games, and other internet-based activities. This great rewiring of childhood, as he argues throughout his book, is the single largest reason for the tidal wave of adolescent mental illness that began in the early 2010s. That's Jonathan Haidt, a quote out of his book. So this is the first generation, Gen Z, that goes through puberty with now these devices normalized in their use. And honestly, I think a lot of parents out of ignorance just gave a lot of access because they didn't understand some of the ramifications. And so now we're seeing this in the research. Now, hence, or just in case you think this is only a young person issue, let me just recognize that this is a particular impact on those that are young, but let me broaden the impact to see how it's impacting all of us. Within the last 6 months, this is a good time to do the series, but within the last 6 months, there have been multiple academic studies released showing correlation between suicidal ideation, mental illness, anxiety, depression, and short-form video use. So Instagram, Reels, YouTube, Shorts, and TikTok in particular. So those short-term videos and the impact they have on brain development for every single person of every single age. So first, the studies show this is not an age thing. This is an average. This is an average of us in this room. Of us in this room, the average screen time a United States adult has every day is just over 7 hours. We're not talking phone time, just screen time. You just think about by the time you are looking at your computer, watching something on TV, any of those things, screen use. Ordering now at McDonald's on a screen and paying out at Home Depot on a screen. Like, your screen time is over 7 hours a day as an average. Now, that does have some slight variation by age. You go a little younger, it goes up a little bit. You go older, it goes down a little bit, but not much. 7 hours. So within this, those short-form video platforms, TikTok, like I said before, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, are a major source of daily consumption for the American public, regardless of age. So this, as I said, in September of 2025, just recently, a few months ago, the American Psychological Association Journal published a paper that was a synthesis of 71 studies from the last 5 years. And they were particularly focusing on the impact of this screen time and these short-term videos. And they revealed that the greater engagement that one has with these platforms, the poorer cognitive and mental health that people will experience. So to summarize, here was their report's findings. Short-form video addiction is a global public health threat, Wang, who's the article author, warned. And while nobody's saying delete your apps entirely, the research makes one thing clear. If alcohol can leave you hungover, the scroll might leave you hollowed out. What a quote. Likening alcohol addiction to what our phones do when we cycle through YouTube Reels. And you're on Facebook and you just think, well, it's just stories after story after story after story, hollowed out. Now, before you think there's going to be a basket and you toss your phone on the way out and we're advocating an Amish style of life, okay, so hold on. That's not where we're going, as I have my iPhone right here timing how long I'm taking. So, hold on. But we need to establish some of what's happening, or open our eyes to this as a global pandemic level of what's happening by the discipleship of the devices and how it's rewiring and changing the youngest among us, but every single one of us. Every single one of us. To the city of Corinth, who had some pushback on some of Paul's writings, that maybe some of you might have a pushback on this. Paul would say this: I have the right to do anything, you might say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything. So this is a series about what is your master. Things that are beneficial give, things that are helpful serve, but masters take. And here's that next point. Masters take while tools give. Masters take while tools give. And my concern is that when we think of our phones and devices, the internet and other things and AI tools as tools, they're actually masters. And so we need to make sure, are they taking our joy? We look at the stats, and it's hard to argue with depression, anxiety, and mental illness on the rise. They are clearly mastering us and forming us in ways that are unhealthy. So we need to recognize and open our eyes. Who is discipling us? And it's so normal around us. I mean, I just think about the use of digital media and how we're so connected. I was this last week, I often go to Mesa climbing gym and climb a little bit, and I'll jump on the treadmill a little bit before. Don't get impressed, it's in like 5 minutes of walking. It's all okay. But jump on the treadmill a little bit, and I don't have earbuds in. My phone's not on in front of me, and I look around, and everybody has their earbuds in, and everybody has their phones out. And you know who feels weird? Me, right? I'm the weird one, right? Have you ever sat on a plane and seen somebody just sitting there? Like, are they okay? Are they okay? They're not on their phone. They're not there. Like, are they okay? Because we've normalized, you've always got to have something in front of you. The constant consuming of digital media. And so that's just normal. So to be in someplace else, this isn't judgment. This is just observation of the culture around us. There was a study done in 1994. It's been redone multiple times, but it's called and you can watch it, the short little video that was crummy quality. You could probably see here at all. But the video is called Disconnection and the Still Face Paradigm. It observes brain development in little kids. And what the study did is it had new moms with their babies come in, and they observe mothers interacting with these just a few months old babies. And they're interacting, kind of making little fun noises and poking at their toes. And the baby's interacting, and you can just imagine that interplay between that young mom and that baby, right? And then the researchers asked the mothers then, so after you've had some of that play for a little bit, now turn your gaze just off into the distance and have a completely still face for 60 seconds. And so they turn and they just go completely still in their face. Now the baby still tries to interact, but it doesn't take long, 10 seconds maybe, and the baby gets agitated, it looks around, it starts to get sunken inside of itself. And the research shows if that continues, it has a very dramatic, harmful effect on the development of those babies. It's that still face of that parent that's disconnected. So it's not just your presence, but it's your interaction. It doesn't take long for us to see the connection of our presence with people, but stuck in our devices. And so my concern, yes, is for that child, but it's also for us as adults. Watching my son play basketball, Sports Dome is fantastic. But to see the number of parents there who are present, imagine the dad present. I got off work early to be here for my son, and now I'm back in my phone doing what I need to do. And the son scores that shot, scans the stands to see his dad there, and his dad's, boom, he missed it. Or how many grandparents show up at their grandkids' production, and they've got to get the framed shot and everything, and they got to film it and everything. Our kids don't just want to be filmed. They want us to be present. We are digitally discipling our kids into disconnection. It's not just harming them, it's harming us. Study after study is surfacing these things. We are physically there, but phones can create an emotional distance. They create emotional distance. And so next week I'm going to talk more about how do we use these tools in a healthy way. But today is more that establishing this as a root issue and cause, understanding what's underneath these things so that we can address and attack them well in the coming weeks. So it's just going to be 3 weeks looking at this together, and next week we'll bring more tools. But I want to unearth, where does this come from? Why is this so unhealthy? And so to do that, I want to go back briefly into Genesis. So we want to go into the Garden of Eden and an interaction there as we see sin first enter into the garden, see that connection then with what's happening with our cell phone use and the promises there. In Genesis 3, serpent is speaking, and serpent says, You will not certainly die, the serpent said to the woman, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And we've dropped right into the middle of a story here where the key lie from Satan, from the enemy, is that Adam and Eve could be like God. They could be like God. They could have the attributes of God. God's goodness was called into question. And from here, the question becomes, can I really trust God? Is God holding back from me? Does God know something I don't know that if I knew, I would be in such a better place? What if I don't even need God at all? What if I can know everything I need to know? So that lie that you see placed right there in Genesis, which had an unraveling effect for centuries and millennia afterwards, we still see offered today in an insidious way by our very phones. And so the danger is nothing new. And here's where I think we see it show up with our phones today. Our phones give us the illusion of three things that only God holds. The phones give us an illusion of omniscience, that we can know all things. That we can know all things. Did you know I don't know is perfectly acceptable? It's not just, hold on a minute, I'll look it up. Phones give us the illusion of we can know everything. A library at your fingertips. The power of AI there to answer whatever you want to hear, but that's a whole other sermon. So there's an illusion of omniscience, of I can know everything. I can know everything. I remember growing up and having like Encyclopedia Britannica out in a library in our house there. And you have to go look it up. And then first of all, okay, how do I spell that again? Okay, I'm not great. Okay, my sister knows how to spell it. Okay, we'll ask her. And then we go find it. And you got to go look it up. And do I really want to look this up? I'll just go back outside and play. But to know something, you have to dig in things. Now, knowledge at your fingertips. There's a promise of omniscience. We know all of it. What do we even need God for? Omniscience. Second, the phones give us the illusion of omnipresence. An attribute of God where he is everywhere at once. Omnipresence. We can be everywhere. You want a street view of walking through the markets in Paris? Done. You can get there. You know, from the comfort of your own home, you want to know what the weather is like in South America? Done. Anything that you want to do, you wonder... you wonder what the weather like's in Hawaii. Should we go there? Should we travel? I don't need to call anybody and find out. I can just look it up. It's the ability to be everywhere. I'll careful how far I go on this sidetrack so I don't lose some of you totally. But the ability to track people, right? That phenomenon here where we go, well, it seems fairly innocent. I can see all the reasons why, well, how helpful, but that presence that me, in my one spot, I could track and know where all of these people are. Now, it seems fairly innocuous, and some of you are like, whoa, Nick, careful what you're treading on. But there is an ability to track and understand where people are at. So 10, 15 years from now, when the government just tracks everybody and the kids go, that's fine. Well, yeah, because parents tracked them forever. We normalized it. Okay, so on omnipresence, there is a lie, there's an illusion of I can be everywhere. And we've got all the reasons why that's helpful, but phones promise so much. You can know everything. You can be everywhere. Third, omnipotence. Omnipotence, the power of God, the ability to control. You can sit on your couch, increase the heat, turn on the sprinklers, turn off the Christmas lights, change the channel, apparently turn on the oven. You can do so much from that spot. In that one spot, you can do all your banking, you can check in with work. The power from a single device to do all of these things. There's so much here. There's so much that you can do from a single device. These omnis, these things that are true of God are now promised at our fingertips. This master is simulating so much of the goodness of God. And instead of our dependence upon him, we can turn this way. And a master promises so many good things. What a powerful device. What a helpful thing that we should use, we would think over and over and over. And eventually we find ourselves in a way that by becoming slaves to this device, you see in our culture and a younger generation particularly, the rise of so many side effects that are detrimental because we've placed our worship, our service, and our dependence upon a device that promises so many things. We were not designed to be omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. That's God's realm, not ours. When we place ourselves in that spot, it's crushing. It's crushing. So instead of following the pattern of this world and normalizing and conforming to this, let's go back to Romans 12. And I read verse 2. Let me read verse 1. Verse 1 says this. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies. That's all of us. All of us. That's everything that we are, as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. And so we offer all of us to Jesus. We offer all of it to him. And we say, we want you to be the king. We see the illusion and the promise of what phones offer in so many ways, but no, Jesus, we're going to offer our bodies to you. We want to serve you, to follow Jesus. Romans 12, we see that is for our good. If you look down to verse 2 that we read earlier, it says, I'll just read it again. It's not going to be on the screen, but do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. God's will is revealed for our benefit, for the benefit of those around us. He's wiring and reforming us in his image for our good. The digital device there, to what end are they rewiring us? Who's behind that has our good in mind? I mean, there's profitability in mind. There may be a number of other things. You may think, maybe there is an evil intent. Maybe it's just neutral, but behind that is not a good, gracious God desiring to conform us to his image. So this is a massive issue that shows up all around us. And there's the promise for so much good, but we see so much damage. And so for me, here's an observation. This is a collective problem that calls for collective solutions. It's a collective problem. It's bigger than any one of us can handle, and so calls for solutions that involve all of us. Another way to say it is, let's use the buddy system and stay on track to kick off 2026 in a digital detox. We'll talk about here in a minute. So that to kick off this year, we might try something different in an extreme way for a short period of time to then consider how to re-engage with digital media. So one of the goals for me during this season, for these 3 weeks before we jump into another book study and continue in the spring, one of my goals for this series is for us to normalize a healthy view of media. Sometimes I think we get overwhelmed and we think everybody else has it figured out, or everybody else is just giving their kids a cell phone and I have no option. But for us to have a conversation and to normalize something different in a way that says, how is Jesus going to be the Lord of my life? And this become a tool. We'll get some practical things in the weeks ahead. But my observation is that globally, people are catching up to the dangers of what's happening. Because when cell phones and social media and the digital transformation was introduced, there's so many people that didn't understand what's going on. I mean, some people are just thinking, well, this is a great babysitter. Throw an iPad in front of a kid and we're off and running. But we very quickly realized that's dangerous. But we didn't really know why. So now we're starting to research some of these things and find out. This is interesting just from a global perspective, just to realize if you've had questions about this, this is not something that you're alone with. Here's a graph that shows the majority of people around the globe support a social media ban for children. So when you look at this is percentages. So the average across the globe, 71% of people agree social media should be banned for those under 14. In the U.S., it's about 63% of us. So there is an awareness more broadly of the dangers of this. To think of it in ways like I likened it to drinking. You can become drunk. We don't allow underage drinking. We see that as culturally as a bad thing. You're an adult. Hopefully you've got some self-restraint, some understanding of how to handle that in a wise way. In the same way, this is showing us globally, people are starting to realize these things. Did you know in Australia, they've actually outlawed those under 16 access to social media and digital accounts. They've said it's illegal because of the way it warps and rewires your brain. So I realize some of your students might be sitting in here, you can imagine a conversation with one of your kids and going, I know you're 12, but you're not going to have a social media account. What? Everybody's doing it. Yeah, everybody's being conformed to the image of this world. Are we going to be transformed in a different way as a collective to recognize this? And we're not just picking on younger. lets us as adults model that and step into that and recognize how it's shaping and changing us. So globally, Christians aren't the only ones going, hey, there's a problem here. There's a recognition. So it's more than just saying there's a problem here, but we're saying, how are we going to address this from a biblical framework and walk into it? And that's what the next couple of weeks we want to look at specifically. Today, I want to lay down, hopefully in a way to get this is a problem to shock awake maybe a few people to say, well, I only use my phone for work, or, I'm not really on a social account, so I just watch TV all day. It's not a big deal. Wherever you're at in your interaction, I'm focusing particularly on phones, but in a broad sense, from a media and intake side of what are we normalizing in our homes, my encouragement, my challenge as I end this morning is that we would detox. We would detox. We would take ourselves out of the illusion of our phones, which tell us we are all present, all knowing, all powerful, and that promise there that we can believe that lie, and we're going to step back and say, let me detox. Let me step out of that. And here's the thing. What social feeds, particularly short-term videos, feed on are those dopamine hits. You get you that notification, your phone buzzes, or something comes up. There's a response with our own biological system that is a reward response. And people know that. That's why casinos have fun dings and everything. Like, you guys, we live in Reno. There's an addictive nature to these things. And so that dopamine, it takes time to reset our receptors. So to start a digital detox, start a fast digitally, the initial steps will be the hardest because dopamine is that pleasure response in the brain. And to reset those receptors takes some time. And so here's the challenge for today. Commit to a digital detox challenge for 12 days. Now, here's the irony. Scan the QR code to start the digital detox, right? And here's what's going to happen. You're going to get a daily text. I know. A daily text to remind you to stay off your phone. If you have issues scanning this QR code and making it all work, maybe this phone detox isn't as important for you. But anyway, when you scan the QR code, your texting service will open up. It'll have a keyword detox. And then you'll be entered into that daily text for 12 days starting tomorrow. So the encouragement is take 12 days and dramatically remove yourself from your phone use, from your media use of all kinds. And so for you, maybe the phone is the most significant thing. Maybe it's whatever other, you watch the news every night at this time and you're like, well, I can't imagine me without that. Imagine for 12 days, dramatically removing yourself from any form of media digital intake to reset. Now, again, not forever, for 12 days. And over the next 2 times that we meet, we're going to be talking through how do we re-engage in wise ways digital media? How do we set limits? What are some tools and resources around these things that can be helpful for us? So as you scan this gets you into that daily text. I recognize that for many of us, we use our phones for work and other things, but to do some radical things like maybe you need to buy an alarm clock and keep your phone in the kitchen and not in your bedroom. Like just some things that really start to separate us from that regular intake. So the challenge, the next 12 days, sign up here or scan there, text in, you get that regular text, and the next 2 weeks we'll be talking about this, about how we let these things disciple and impact us. You can do this in community. I think that's going to be super helpful. Have some other people around you. That's why Robbie talked about joining in a group, getting involved in community groups and being a part of that. Parents, you can do this with your kids. Allow them to see you model it. Don't just do it to them. Do it with them. We'll talk a little bit about this in the future weeks, but my observation is that most parents overprotect in the real world and underprotect in the digital world. Overprotect in the real world and underprotect in the digital world. Seeing all those stats up there and everything, wow. I don't see, can we just normalize? Why does anybody even need a cell phone until high school? And then why not just a family phone that's only on for a few hours a day? That's okay. That's okay. We'll be talking about what are some of those tools that we together would step into so that, not that we're anti-technology, but that we are for the discipleship of our kids, of us, to be conformed to the image of Christ. So here's what I want to do. And as we're going to prepare here to wrap up with a song, I would love, if you've got your phone out or something like that or accessible to you, I'd love for you to put it on the floor by your feet. Put your phone on the floor by your feet. I didn't step on it. No. Step on your neighbor's phone. We're a community. Put that phone and then stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Did you know it's possible to live without your phone in your pocket, without your hand? Like to allow the promise of that. Thank you, Aaron. To separate that, put that away. And we go, okay, what a powerful tool. We'll talk about the uses of it later and re-engage it in wise ways. But you know what, Jesus, we want to be transformed by you. And at times it's because we are limited. You are omnipresent. You are omniscient. God, you are the one that is worthy of worship because of who you are. We are limited, and that is not a bad thing. That is a recognition of our dependence and surrender to you. And so by putting our phones down and other things, we're recognizing all these things that compete for mastery of who we are. No, we're not going to be mastered by anything. You are a master. So if you just put your hands out in an open posture, there's no phone in your hands. It's just your hands, like your real hands offering to Jesus. Jesus, let's pray. Jesus, we offer ourselves fully to you. God, we live in a unique time in history with the digital world that we live in, but in some sense, it's no different than any other age where there are competing gods over our life. God, we want you to be Lord of our life. We want our eyes wide open to the world around us in a way that we conform to who you are in your community for your good, for your glory. God, and so much of this is because you want what's best for us. You've come to give life and life to the full. We want full life in you, to be able to experience joy in a fullness with those around us. So God, we offer you fully our lives, our hearts as we step into this detox, this removal from for a period of time to reorient ourselves, to start 2026 fresh in dependence and discipleship of you. It's the powerful name of Jesus that we pray these things. Amen.